We live in a world that often tells us we are separate. Separate by countries, by cultures, by beliefs, by identities. And yet when we look beyond the surface, beyond the borders and beyond the noise, there is a deeper truth waiting for us. A truth so profound, so unifying, that it reshapes the way we see ourselves and each other. That truth is this: we are not separate from the universe. We are not visitors in it. We are it. Every cell in our body, every atom that makes us who we are, comes from the stars. The calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the oxygen you breathe, the carbon in your DNA, none of it originated on Earth. All of it was forged in the cores of ancient stars that lived and died long before our planet ever formed. These stars lived their lives, burned bright, collapsed, exploded, and scattered their contents across the cosmos. And from those scattered remnants came everything we know: the oceans, the mountains, the forests, the cities, the people, all of it, all of us. This is not poetry. This is not metaphor. This is science. This is physics. This is chemistry. This is the story of how the universe built itself into the form of human life. And yet somehow, we've been taught to forget this. We've been taught to believe we are something apart, something other. That nature is something we visit, that the stars are things we look at from a distance. But the truth is, we are a way for the universe to see itself. We are not watching the cosmos. We are the cosmos, conscious, alive, and curious. When we say we are made of stardust, we are saying we are literally connected to everything. The trees, the rivers, the sky, they are not just part of our environment, they are part of our family. We come from the same place. We carry the same origin. We are bound by the same physics, the same forces, the same particles. This connection is not symbolic. It is biological, it is atomic, it is real. And yet most of us live as if we are detached. We live in systems built on competition, on separation, on fear. We draw lines between groups, between ideas, between worth and status. But the universe does not draw lines. It expands, it connects, it builds from the same set of elements over and over again, remixing the same building blocks to create new forms, new life, new possibilities. And if the universe is constantly creating from the same source, how can we claim to be so different from one another? We walk around in these bodies, forgetting that they are made of the same material as the stars. We focus on the surface, on skin color, on origin, on language. But beneath that surface, at the molecular level, we are indistinguishable. The same hydrogen atoms that formed in the early universe are in your glass of water. The same iron that powers your red blood cells came from an exploding star. The atoms that form your body right now have passed through oceans, clouds, rocks, trees, and animals. They have belonged to other forms, and they will belong to other forms again. This is the cycle of the cosmos. Constant transformation, constant recycling, constant rebirth. You are not a static being. You are a dynamic expression of energy and matter, temporarily organized in the form of a human. And when your time is done, those atoms will continue their journey. They will become something else. They will continue to serve the universe in new ways. When we truly grasp this, something shifts. It becomes impossible to see another human as other. It becomes harder to justify hate, to justify violence, to justify exclusion. Because how can you reject someone who shares your very origin? How can you look at another person and not see a reflection of the universe in them too? This awareness doesn't make us small. It makes us meaningful. We are part of something unimaginably vast and beautiful. And our role within it is not passive. We are not just stardust. We are stardust that thinks, that loves, that dreams. We are the part of the universe that asks questions, that seeks understanding, that builds civilizations, that writes music, that tells stories. We are the part of the cosmos that longs for connection and truth. And the truth is, we are already connected. We always have been, not just to each other,
but to everything. Every corner of this universe is within us. Every star, every galaxy, every breath is part of our story. We do not live in isolation. We live in relationship with the earth, with the sky, with time itself. And every moment of awareness, every act of kindness, every decision to see the bigger picture is a way of honoring that relationship.
From the moment we are born, we are taught to categorize ourselves and others. Where we come from, what we look like, what we believe. We're given names, identities, passports, flags, and over time we start to believe those categories are what define us. We start to believe that what separates us is greater than what connects us. But when we step back, when we zoom out far enough, all those divisions begin to blur. The truth is, they were never part of nature. They were part of our design, and at our core, underneath all of those labels, we are the same, not similar, the same. Because we all come from the same place, we all share the same origin, we are all children of the same universe. When we understand our shared cosmic origin, something fundamental shifts in how we see ourselves and each other. It becomes harder to dehumanize, harder to ignore, harder to divide. Because how do you hate someone who carries the same star matter you do? How do you draw borders between people when you realize that every atom in every human being was born from the same cosmic furnace? The moment we accept that we are all made of the same elements, formed by the same processes, held by the same laws of physics, is the moment we begin to see each other differently, not as strangers, but as relatives in the grandest family of all. We live in a time when connection has never been easier, yet true belonging feels more out of reach. We are more linked than ever, but more isolated than ever. We scroll past each other. We debate, we judge, we argue, we other. And in doing so, we lose sight of a much deeper connection. The connection that exists before language, before ideology, before politics. The connection that exists simply because we are alive at the same moment on the same pale blue dot, drifting through the same silent galaxy. That is not a coincidence. That is a miracle of alignment. The stars did not choose to die for one group of people. They did not distribute their elements according to race, or class, or creed. The raw material of the universe is indiscriminate. It does not see difference. It creates, destroys, and rebuilds, always with the same ingredients. When we realize that we all began as the dust of stars, we are faced with a powerful question. If we come from the same place, why do we spend so much time trying to separate ourselves? That separation is learned. It is taught through fear, through scarcity, through the illusion that for one group to thrive, another must fall behind. But the universe doesn't operate on scarcity. It operates on abundance. It creates endlessly. It expands without permission. It gives without asking for anything in return. And when we align ourselves with that mindset, when we lead with an awareness of our shared origin, we become capable of so much more empathy, more compassion, more cooperation, because we begin to understand that the success of one is bound to the success of all. Every culture on earth has looked up at the stars and wondered where we came from, wondered what our purpose is, wondered if we are alone. And for all our differences, that curiosity is universal, that need to belong, that need to understand our place in something bigger than ourselves. We are united not only by our physical composition, but by our shared longing to connect. That's not weakness. That's the deepest kind of strength. And that's why our shared origin matters, because it reveals that we are not alone in our fears. We are not alone in our hopes. We are not alone in our desire to love, to be seen, to make meaning. When we look at each other through the lens of the cosmos, we stop asking, "How are you different from me?" and start asking, "How are we the same?" That question changes everything. It creates space for dialogue. It opens the door to healing. It invites collaboration where there was once competition. And we need that shift now more than ever. We need it in our governments, in our classrooms, in our communities, in our conversations. We need to remember that the person on the other side of the screen, the other side of the border, the other side of the argument, is made of the same stuff as we are, that their existence is as miraculous, as fragile, and as sacred as our own. We can't always control the systems we are born into, but we can choose how we see each other. We can choose to look past the surface. We can choose to honor the truth that lives beneath the noise, that we are stardust with stories, stardust with memories, dreams and fears, stardust that loves and learns and gets it wrong and tries again. When we begin to see people through that lens, the need to compete fades. The desire to dominate softens, because we realize we're not just here to win. We're here to remember that we belong to each other. There's something deeply human about the experience of awe. That feeling when you stand beneath a vast night sky and realize just how expansive the universe is. That hush that falls over you in the presence of something so much larger than yourself. It's not fear, not quite. It's humility. And in that humility, something remarkable happens. We stop thinking about how important we are and start realizing how connected we are. In that moment, we don't feel insignificant. We feel part of something much greater, and that ironically gives our lives more meaning, not less. There's a common misconception that realizing our smallness in the universe should make us feel irrelevant. That standing on a tiny rock in an infinite cosmos somehow strips us of value. But that's not how it works. The vastness of space doesn't diminish us, it elevates us. Because despite the overwhelming scale of the universe, here we are, alive, thinking, feeling, asking questions, building communities, searching for truth. It's precisely because the odds were so stacked against our existence that our being here matters so much. It's easy to lose sight of that. We get caught up in metrics and milestones, in calendars and currencies. We become so absorbed in trying to make our lives significant that we forget to be moved by the fact that they exist at all. But awe resets that perspective. It reminds us that life isn't just about being important. It's about being aware. It's about recognizing that we are participants in something ancient, beautiful, and unfolding. And that awareness, far from being a luxury, is a core part of being fully human. We were never meant to walk through this life indifferent. Indifference is a shield we build when we feel overwhelmed or disconnected. But awe softens that. It pulls us out of ourselves and invites us to look again, to be curious, to pay attention, to stop taking for granted the very fact that we get to be alive right now, in this moment, on this planet, with these people. Humility is not about shrinking ourselves. It's about right-sizing ourselves in the story. It's understanding that while we may not be the center of the universe, we are a meaningful part of it. And that meaning isn't derived from our titles, our possessions, or our platforms. It comes from our ability to see the bigger picture and to live in alignment with it. In the face of the cosmos, it becomes harder to cling to ego. The universe doesn't operate on likes and retweets. It doesn't care about awards or resumes. What it honors is resilience, adaptability, creativity, the same qualities that brought life into existence in the first place. So when we orient our lives around those values, we begin to reflect something much deeper than personal achievement. We reflect the very principles that make life possible. Awe also helps us reconnect with each other. When we share a moment of wonder, whether it's watching a meteor shower or hearing a child ask their first big question about the stars, we're reminded that we are not alone in this experience. We are not separate observers of the world. We are co-creators of it. And in that shared curiosity, that shared humility, we begin to build a different kind of culture, one that values presence over performance, depth over dominance, contribution over comparison. That shift is subtle, but powerful, because when we lead from awe, we lead from curiosity, not certainty. We ask more than we assume. We listen more than we lecture. We stop pretending we have all the answers and start building spaces where more voices can be heard. That's not just good leadership. That's good humanity. There's something sacred about realizing we're part of a vast, complex, unknowable universe and still choosing to care deeply about one another, about showing up with empathy, even when we don't have to, about choosing generosity, even when no one is watching. Those choices are the true markers of significance. Not how loudly we speak, but how intentionally we live. Not how much we accumulate, but how deeply we connect. So much of what divides us stems from the belief that our way is the only way. But awe reminds us that there are infinite perspectives, infinite possibilities. It humbles us without erasing us. It roots us in something timeless and teaches us that the wisest people are not always the loudest. They're the ones still asking questions, still seeking, still wondering. To live in awe is not to escape reality, but to fully engage with it. To remember that in a universe filled with dark matter and distant galaxies, the fact that we get to experience joy, love, and connection is extraordinary. To know that we are not the whole story, but we are a beautiful sentence within it. When we look at the universe, we often think of it as something distant and impersonal. Galaxies, black holes, stars billions of light years away. It feels like an abstract reality, far removed from our daily lives. But the universe is not out there somewhere, separate from us. It's a mirror. And when we learn how to look into it, what it reflects back is not emptiness, but possibility. Not coldness, but connection. It shows us what we're made of and what we're capable of becoming. It doesn't just stretch across space. It stretches across time, across experience, across everything that ever was and ever will be, and in the middle of it, here we are, alive, breathing, asking what it all means. The laws that govern the stars are the same laws that govern the cells in your body. The patterns that shape galaxies also shape ecosystems, relationships, and human behavior. The universe operates with balance, with rhythm, with interdependence. And when we align our lives with those same principles, we thrive. When we resist them, we suffer. Nature has always been teaching us how to live, evolve, adapt, cooperate, renew. It's never been about dominance. It's been about participation. And the most successful systems, both cosmic and human, are the ones built on shared energy, on mutual support, on collective resilience. We tend to think of intelligence as something that belongs to individuals. But the universe shows us that intelligence exists in the relationships between things, in the way planets orbit stars, in the way gravity binds galaxies, in the way life organizes itself to survive and thrive through connection. When we stop trying to prove our uniqueness and start understanding our place in the pattern, we stop competing and start collaborating. We stop building walls and start creating bridges. Because we see that our strength doesn't lie in separation, it lies in unity. The same universe that created stars also created us. That's not a metaphor. That's a fact. And if we are made of the same stuff as the stars, then we are capable of the same kind of brilliance, the same kind of creativity, the same kind of light. Not as individuals trying to outshine one another, but as a collective learning to shine together. The universe is not a solo performance. It's a symphony, and we each have a part to play. But that kind of harmony only happens when we are willing to slow down and listen, to observe, to reflect, and to act with intention. The universe doesn't rush, yet everything gets done. Stars are born in silence. Planets take billions of years to form. There's no hurry, and yet there is always progress. There is always movement. That's a lesson we can carry into how we live, into how we lead, into how we relate to ourselves and to others. That there is power in stillness. That momentum doesn't require noise. That transformation doesn't always announce itself. It often begins quietly, with a shift in awareness.
The mirror of the universe doesn't just show us how things are, it shows us how things could be. It reminds us that chaos can lead to creation, that darkness can give birth to light, that out of destruction, new systems can emerge, stronger, wiser, more sustainable. That's not just the story of the cosmos, it's the story of us. Every breakdown we experience carries within it the potential for breakthrough. Every collapse holds the seeds of renewal. And when we understand that, we stop fearing change and start working with it. We stop seeing crisis as the end and start seeing it as a turning point, as a moment to realign, to reconnect, to recommit to the values that matter. Because the universe doesn't cling, it evolves, and so can we. But only if we're willing to be honest about where we are and where we want to go. Only if we're willing to face ourselves in the mirror and ask, are we living in alignment with the truths the universe keeps showing us? Are we honoring the interconnectedness of life? Or are we pretending we're separate? Are we leading with curiosity and wonder? Or are we operating from fear and scarcity? Are we building systems that reflect the cooperation we see in nature, or ones that isolate and divide? These are not philosophical questions, they're practical ones, because every decision we make either brings us closer to the harmony we see in the stars, or further from it. When we use the universe as our mirror, we begin to see our work, our relationships, our lives through a different lens. We begin to see that the highest purpose is not to dominate, but to contribute, not to accumulate, but to uplift, not to burn out, but to shine with intention. We see that we're not here to conquer the world, we're here to care for it, and in doing so, care for one another. Because the universe, in its quiet wisdom, has already shown us the way.
There's a quiet truth about the universe that many of us overlook, not because it's hidden, but because we're too busy to notice. And it's this: the universe is always communicating, not in words or language, but through patterns, cycles, rhythms, the rising and setting of the sun, the ebb and flow of tides, the blooming of flowers, the changing of seasons. It's speaking to us all the time, offering lessons on balance, on timing, on presence. And the more we tune in to those signals, the more we start to live in sync with something deeper than logic, deeper than routine. We start to live in alignment with nature, and in doing so, we begin to understand ourselves more clearly. But modern life is noisy. It rewards speed over stillness, productivity over presence, doing over being. We fill our calendars, chase our goals, accumulate more success, more recognition, more things, believing that movement equals progress. But movement without alignment is just noise. And in all that noise, it's easy to drown out the subtle, guiding voice of the universe. That still, calm rhythm that says, slow down, pay attention, trust the process. Nature never rushes, and yet it accomplishes everything. The trees don't strain to grow, the moon doesn't force the tides. Everything unfolds in its own time, in its own way. And somehow it all works. There's no need for constant control, constant optimization. And yet, when we look around, so much of what we do is based on forcing, pushing, chasing. We treat rest as a reward instead of a necessity. We treat silence as emptiness instead of space for reflection. But if we learn to trust the natural intelligence that's built into everything around us, we'd stop trying to dominate the world and start participating in it. When we live out of sync with the natural world, we start to feel disconnected, not just from nature, but from ourselves and each other. We forget that we're not separate from the planet. We are part of it. Our bodies are made from the same elements as the earth. Our hearts beat in rhythm with its pulse. But we've built systems that ignore that truth, systems that extract instead of regenerate, that consume instead of sustain, that reward short-term gain over long-term harmony. And those systems are breaking down. Not because the universe is punishing us, but because anything out of alignment eventually collapses under its own weight. What's needed now is not more technology, more complexity, or even more knowledge. What's needed is wisdom. The kind of wisdom that comes from listening, from observing, from noticing the patterns that have been there all along, from remembering that nature is not a resource, it's a relationship. And when we shift our mindset from control to collaboration, from dominance to stewardship, we begin to create systems that last. We begin to lead in ways that nourish, not just perform. This isn't about returning to the past or romanticizing simplicity. It's about recognizing that the future we're heading toward will only be sustainable if it respects the rhythms of the natural world. That means learning to pause, to rest, to reset, not as a break from progress, but as part of it. The universe itself expands and contracts. So why do we think we're meant to go one direction forever, without pause, without reflection? We are part of a living system. Every decision we make has a ripple effect. Every action either contributes to the health of the whole or takes from it. And that applies not just environmentally, but socially, emotionally, spiritually. The way we treat each other, the way we treat the earth, the way we treat ourselves. It's all connected. The universe isn't compartmentalized, and neither are we. And when we stop living like we're separate from everything, we begin to live more fully in everything. There's wisdom in the winds, in the roots, in the stars. But that wisdom isn't loud. It won't interrupt your to-do list. It won't compete with your inbox. You have to slow down to hear it. You have to be present to receive it. And when you do, what you'll find is not just insight, it's clarity. Clarity about what matters. Clarity about who you are. Clarity about what's worth building and protecting and standing for. When we tune ourselves to the rhythm of the universe, we begin to lead from a deeper place, not just with strategy, but with soul. Not just with answers, but with questions that matter. We make room for the unseen, the intuitive, the mysterious. We create space not just for outcomes, but for meaning. And in that space, something ancient and powerful comes alive. Something we've always known, but maybe forgotten in the noise. Something that reminds us that alignment isn't just a personal goal, it's a cosmic principle. And the more we align with it, the more everything starts to make sense.